So this morning's meeting is about plan review. If you were here about special events, please take a look at the flyers we sent out. We sent two. The special events is this afternoon. I think it starts at 1:30. So if you're here for special events, you can hang out if you'd like, but you'll probably be getting a lot more information than is necessary for you, and I don't want to cause you any confusion. Okay, so we've made some changes to our system project docs and some updates to how we're using our electronic plan review system. Project docs, sorry, we made some changes to our permitting system, GOVmotus. We made these changes because of some information from you guys as well as our internal staff. Our largest change is that we are going to a process that we are calling one permit per project. So instead of having multiple permits for all of your different packages and deferrals and things, you'll have one permit number that will encompass all of those. And each of those different types of reviews will just be different review approvals inside that permit. The one exception to this, and we'll go over it, is if you are submitting a multi-building submittal, we still do need a permit per building so that we can issue specific inspections and certificates of completion or occupancy based on those buildings. All right, these instructions are hopefully going to be put up on our website this week. If not, we will find a way to send them out through our constant contact account, or we'll find a way to get them. Hopefully they'll be posted this week. We put in the request, hopefully it happens. If not, we'll try to provide some kind of an update or a way to get you guys access to these instructions. Our new instructions, they will be listed twice. You will find two links on our website, a link for the instructions as they currently stand today, and it will say for projects that were submitted prior to February 7th. If you've already submitted, I'm sure you would all have this question. We are not going to make you go back and make a lot of changes to your files and things like that and follow a different process than what you've already been set up for. That'll be a lot of work, and we're not going to make you guys do that. It will take us a little bit of, we are going to do a little bit of homework to make sure that you can proceed down the old path. And if we find that you actually should be in the new path, we will let you know, and we'll have you follow the new instructions. Should you want to make a change to this new path so that you only have to work inside one permit number, we can have a discussion about that based on where your project is sitting and determine how much work that would actually involve for everybody, and determine at that point what we're going to do. Okay, so our instructions that are posted has a table of contents. These items are clickable. You can click to them and it will take you right to the section once they're posted. So we're going to go ahead and just start about, for anybody who's submitting to us, the question always is, do I need a permit? Things that require a permit are outlined in the California Code of Regulations Title 24, which encompasses the building code and the fire code. And we post the sections here that tells you when you need a permit. If you have a question, you can always email our helpline as well, which I'll show you that address in a little bit. There's also a document on our website that is linked here in these instructions that kind of describes some projects that can be started without permits and some things that can be started while the plan review process is still taking place, and others that you absolutely have to have a permit before you do anything. So please give that document a look over. We're not going to go over those today. This is just about our access to our system and things like that. So as I was saying, a separate GOVmotus permit application will still be required for each building in a project. You don't need a separate application for each package or deferred items anymore. There'll just be reviews and approvals inside the permit. And again, the exception to this is multi-buildings in one set. If you're interested in multiple buildings one set, we will get to that section, but there is a section for that, and you can go to that and read through it. Preliminary project review meetings. We get some people asking about if they need to have these. They're optional for us. You do have to have an application saved in draft status prior to the start of the meeting. This is so we can add any documents that we want to add about the meeting to the permit applications managed documents section. It also allows us to bill against the meeting to your project's account. We get a lot of requests for status inquiries about what our review queue times are. We review everything in the state here in Sacramento. So all the projects that come in, we review on a first come, first served basis. The actual review time takes place after what we call the bin time. And the bin time is dependent upon how many projects are ahead of you and what kinds of projects are ahead of you. We used to say that initial plans that are submitted is somewhere around 6 to 8 weeks. We do oftentimes beat that, but we just provide an estimation of 6 to 8 weeks so that you can kind of plan on some kind of time frame. The actual review time will depend on the size, complexity, and quality of your submittal. A small fire suppression system for a kitchen hood should take a lot less time than a brand new high-rise. So we don't know exactly how long it'll take us for each submittal based on what the content is, but just know that the larger and more complex the project, the longer it will take to review. Notifications. We do not provide like steps along the way of this many sheets through your submittal, so I think maybe it'll take this much longer. We just start reviewing your submittal when it becomes the next thing to review, and we review that until we're finished with it. Throughout our review process, either paper or electronic, our two pieces of software are designed to send you email notifications at milestones, like when we receive your plans, when your review is started, when we finished your review, things like that. So if the email address that you use in your GOVmotus application, pay attention to that email and you will get notifications from our system as we proceed your application through the different processes. Deferred approvals. We do not accept deferred approvals for review until after the construction plans for the project have been approved and issued a permit. This is why they're deferred. They're deferred to later on. And we don't review them until the construction permits are approved, because any changes that are made during the construction plans need to be updated on your deferrals. We've had layouts where deferred approvals do not match the set of construction plans. When you submit your deferred submittals, you'll also need to include a copy of your approved plans if it's on paper, or what we require you to do is upload them to managed documents of your application so that we can compare them and make sure that the information we're reviewing is in accordance with your approved construction plans. We currently allow only 3 things to be deferred automatically. You could defer them and we don't need to provide any special approval. Those are fire alarms and emergency voice evac systems, fire sprinklers or suppression systems, and emergency responder radio coverage. Please identify the types of those systems being deferred, and there's examples in our instructions here for what we would like to see, so that we know what is being deferred for later on. Anything else that you would like deferred approval for, you'll have to reach out and ask us, and we will see if it's something that we will permit to be deferred based on what it is. For anyone still submitting paper plans to us, before you mail your plans to us, you normally just complete an application and mail your plans to us. Before you mail them, we need you to complete your application. Or sorry, this is the first submittals. After your initial plans have been submitted and approved, you'll make a new request from your GOVmotus application. And there's a piece in the dashboard that we'll go over a little bit later. I'll show you where that exists. But But on your control panel, you'll click New Review Request. You will then choose the plan review type from the dropdown. If what you're submitting to us isn't in the list that we've provided, you can email our helpline. This is the email address here, and you can ask us what would I choose for this, or maybe it's something that we haven't thought of to put in the list yet, and maybe we'll add it so that it will be available for you and for all others in the future. Once you've made that request, we need you to wait until you get a notification from us to mail your plans. The reason we want to do this is we want to stop receiving plans that are not able to be received yet for deferred approvals. We do get some submittals in that the construction plans haven't been approved yet, and the deferred submittals show up, and then we end up having to mail them back. So we'd like you to wait and mail them once we have looked at your permit history and we agree that your deferred submittal can be mailed in because it's ready for that process. All paper submittals should follow the requirements for the paper plan review section of this document. We're going to go over that. It's down below. You also need to give us your application number when you mail those plans in. And you need to ensure the original approved construction plans have been uploaded into the managed documents section of your permit application. I look like there's a question in the chat. Plans submitted to be engineer staff. Plans submitted have to be stamped by the responsible person over those documents. If that's an engineer, if that is an architect, whoever is responsible has to stamp and sign the plans. For electronic plans, in the past, you would, for deferred submittals, you would create a new permit application. You won't be doing that anymore. So we also don't want you to go into Project Docs and upload plans straight into the folders. In fact, you should be blocked from doing that if you don't have an open task. But in the case that it allows you to, we don't want you just to upload them without having created a task first. It's how we get to know that, for one, you have uploaded something. It doesn't tell us that unless you have a task. So if you are somehow able to upload without a task, we won't know about it. So before you can upload, again, you'll go into your GOVmotus permit application. You'll click Make New Review Request on the control panel on the left. You'll choose the review type from the dropdown, and then that will come into our system. We will get notified. We will evaluate that request. We will make sure that your construction plans have been reviewed and approved. If so, we will start a new workflow for you in Project Docs, which will send you the normal upload and submit task that you receive now upon initial reviews as well. You'll get another email that says you can come upload your plans, and you'll follow the electronic plan review process that we'll go over below as well. You'll accept your task and upload your documents and all of that. Bid and reference documents drawings. For paper and electronic plans, all bid documents need to be clearly marked with a very large label that they are for bid and not for construction. This is so that we can make sure that we're checking a new checkbox on the application for schematic type reviews where we don't want to issue a permit yet, but your project or your program informs us you still need to have approval of the plans, and we want to make sure we're not issuing a permit for something that isn't ready for construction. Reference drawings. They need to be clearly marked with a large label that they're for reference only and not for construction. If you're submitting a drawing from a previous project, we don't want you to write on that previous sheet. So what you could do is, there's an example down here where you will, if this is your previously approved sheet, take a scan of it and fit it onto your new sheet. So this will be reduced a little bit. And then your new sheet will have the label. This will have all your current stuff. So this may have a different project number on it from years ago, but this is your current submittal document here, and that's how you'll show us a reference document from a previously reviewed and approved document. There's a question in the chat. Let's try to follow the question from Stephen Johnson. If an engineer has stamped a set of drawings, you do not need to stamp them again. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Another question from the chat for if your bid documents are intended for construction, then and you have the normal comments on there that they're 100% ready for construction, that's fine. We get some bid documents that are not ready for construction, and they have some general information on them that are not enough. They're enough detail to get a permit, but they're going to be like we sometimes get some stuff with fire alarm information in it, and something has been drawn out, and we look at it, but it is not the fire alarm shop drawings. It is not what will be used to build from. So those are the things we're talking about where what you're giving to a contractor for them to put a submittal together, that's not, we don't want to issue permits for that. Not at the time that we do our initial review. They can submit their documents later, and then we can provide a permit for that. Okay, partial permitting. So typically, if you're not going to follow the normal process where all of your scope of work is provided in one set of plans, or not, sorry, not the deferrals. If you're doing partial permitting where you're doing phased work for design build, we allow you to break up your submittal into different packages. And we call this partial permitting. You will need to also review our partial permitting guidelines for that. And I'll go over that in a little bit. And if you're doing partial permitting with multiple buildings, you will still have to follow the multiple buildings requirements for your submissions. It'll just be also in accordance with our partial permitting guidelines. In fact, while we're here, we'll go ahead and go over that. Come in. Okay, partial permitting guidelines. Again, there's a table of contents. General information, we talk about what this is. This is basically establishing submittal requirements for permitting for partial permits. We may issue a permit for some work to begin, but not all of the design is done yet. We allow you to proceed with that work while the rest of the project is being prepared and submitted for review. We break it down into 3 packages. Package 1 is a code analysis, grading utilities package. We do package 2, which is the foundation and structural package, and package 3, which is the final package, which includes the complete set of architectural, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical plans. Below are the requirements that we have for all this. So prerequisites, we need the single and same applicant for all of the partial permits. That way we don't have separate permits. We want it all in one place. And then we're currently saying that, or we're currently only accepting this in electronic plan review process for all packages. We're not doing, we're not accepting paper submissions for partial permitting. Additional plans, details, and specifications in each package that are not in the scope of work shall be identified as reference. We do still get a lot of reference meeting information, and we do require a preliminary meeting unless our plan review supervisors state otherwise. If you would like to discuss that or schedule that meeting, go to our website and get our contact information and look for the plan review supervisors information to reach out to them. We require a life safety / fire protection letter. It needs to be prepared by a qualified engineer, specialist, laboratory or fire safety specialty organization, acceptable to the OSFM, to analyze the fire life safety properties of the design, operation, and use of the building or premises. We require this to be submitted with package 1. Specifically, if you have one of these 6 types of things in your building. Group H occupancies, if you have a Group B or an L lab, if you're doing high piled storage, if you have an energy storage system exceeding capacities shown in Fire Code section 1207.1.1, if you have any emergency or legally required generators, or a smoke control system. These items have very specific, very impactful changes if you have these items, and we want to make sure that a person who specializes in these types of occupancies or uses has provided a review of your submittals and can help explain their plan and how they're complying with the code before the plans come in. I'm going to take a moment to answer some questions from the chat. Yes, the guidelines will be available online. They're already online now. I will tell you this, these exact instructions are online. The only changes that we've made to them are where it talked about having to submit separate permits for each package. You'll do each package under the same permit number now as a separate review. That's the only changes that have been made to these documents. So this document is available online, but it currently talks about separate permits. So if you're just looking for the other information that we include, it's already in there. Question about package 1, code analysis, etc. Like egress. So the egress we're looking for in package 1 is your plan per floor. We're going to go over what package 1 should entail. Maybe that'll answer your question there. Let's get. I want to make sure I'm not skipping over anything. All of the documents, we are trying to get them uploaded this week. The request has been made to the staff that oversee our website, and hopefully they will be posting them this week. All right, we're going to continue on. If you want to request an abatement or demolition permit package that is separate from package 1, we do allow you to do that. It's optional, not required. You'll need to establish a complete and specific scope of work for the abatement and demolition. It'll include site staging, alternate egress, plans for existing buildings that are in proximity to the construction site, so that you're not impeding egress. We have seen a couple of demo submissions that talked about providing chain link fence around their perimeter of their construction site, and the chain link fence obstructed egress from neighboring buildings. So we want to see those kinds of things so that we can make sure the work you're doing is not impacting other buildings. We may still require you to combine this or submit it at the same time with package 1 if we determine that a code analysis is needed prior to doing any demolition or abatement work. Again, these are things we can discuss in the preliminary meeting and outline what will be required. Package 1. This is the code analysis grading underground utilities, ground improvements for the entire project. We need to have a completed application. We want all the permit numbers for the plans that are associated with the project. So you will need to, if it's a multi-building submittal, you will need to create applications for each building at the beginning so you can list them on your plans when you first submit them, so that we know all of the buildings that will be included in the packages and what their permit numbers are. You'll need to have the fire protection report that is signed by a qualified person. You'll need to have a descriptive and complete scope of work for the package, and identify any deferred submittals that need to come to our office. And we list again the ones that we accept. The preliminary design summary code, which will include but not limited to all of the items here below, which is typically what we ask you to provide in our plan reviews as your building data analysis. I'm just gonna, this is already, this is all stuff that'll be posted, so I don't want to spend too much time just talking and listing about these. We also want site plans that show property lines, easements, the fire department access roads that proceed to within 150 feet of all exterior portions of each building, and that you're not obstructing any of the current roads that go to other buildings with your project. Exterior egress routes on the property to a safe dispersal area or the public right of way, where the public right of way is, proposed and existing buildings, riser location, things like that. We want utility plans that show all the fire hydrant locations, existing and new, in accordance with spacing requirements out of the fire code, Appendix C. Any locations of fire department connections, post indicator valves, or backflow locations, both existing and new. You will need to include our underground notes and documentation of any required fire flow for California Fire Code Appendix B. We also want a complete drainage plan, temporary permanent dewatering system for the entire site. This usually has to do with making sure that these operations will not be impeding fire department access during construction. Any kind of roadway or section details if you're installing building fire access roads, so that we know that they're compliant. Soil bearing pressures, site safety plan out of the California Fire Code Chapter 33. We are requiring this on all plans submitted to our office. It's a requirement out of the fire code, so please make sure that you check that out. The local fire authority access approval form to make sure that the local fire department can make the turns on the roads and has approved any kind of locations of fire response items. If you know you're going to be making any AMMRs, alternate methods and means requests, we need to know if you have any of those at code design, because those requests coming later may change your code analysis. We would like to know about them now at the beginning. And if you have any long lead items like generators, now would be the time to put that information in. Make sure you plan and have information that will tell us how you're going to be ensuring that it will support any of the loads or things like that. If your long lead items are prefabricated stairs, using your code analysis, you'll show us how you're complying with the minimum widths. And then your long lead item prefabricated stairs can be looked at for making sure that they're being built compliantly with the proper widths. Going to go back to the chat for some questions. You can submit the geotechnical report as well as the soil report as well. The question about package one. Package one should have information about total occupant loads, total required amounts of egress widths needed, how many stairs or exits that you need from each floor, and then the required exit widths for those, so that we can determine that as a basis of design, if you have X number of people and you need Y number of inches of egress at each exit and stairs, etc. We're looking at that as part of your package one. Your exiting on each floor based on your layouts, which you may not have finalized yet, will come in package three. Just be aware that because of this process and it not getting reviewed all at once, should your layouts in package three have elements that would require more exiting than your code analysis identified, then changes will have to be made. Maybe your floor plans have to change to require less exiting, or maybe more exits will have to be provided. That's the kind of the sticky part of doing this partial permitting, where not everything is submitted all at once for review. Package 2 is our foundation / structural package. We do not allow this to be submitted before the approval of package 1. The reason is we want to understand the basis of your design before we sign off on anything else in your package. But the only thing we're willing to sign off on before your code analysis is approved is your demo, and that'll be based on what you're doing. We may approve your demo beforehand, or we may say that your demo and abatement and your code analysis go hand in hand, and we may require you to submit them together. So after package 1 has been approved, you could submit package 2. On there, again, we want to include all the associated permit numbers if it's a multi-building submittal. If it's just one, it'll just be one number. Descriptive scope of work. Any required life safety special inspections for the scope. Structural plans, calculations, any all electrical, mechanical, and plumbing plans associated with the scope of work proposed for the foundation structure design package. Electrical power distribution plans and bonding for foundation and structure, complete sets of structural plans and calcs. Can include stairs if you are submitting it at that time. Preliminary exterior wall cladding designs, including all structural connection details and edge of slab protection details with the applicable UL listings. All steel fireproofing plans, including their fire resistance ratings and fireproofing schedules with UL listings if those are known. And is there a question in the chat? Package 1. Yes, if certain items on the question is about the fire access letter, for those that aren't reading the chat, can you indicate if certain items are not applicable, such as the bidirectional amplification systems and medical emergency elevator? Yes, if it's on our list and it's not applicable to your project, you can write not applicable. And then between the local fire responding agency and us signing off on that, we'll confirm that it actually is not applicable. If it turns out it is applicable, obviously we will tell you you need to get a new letter and provide those pieces of information. All right, package 3 will be the final complete architectural, electrical, mechanical, plumbing designs, everything else in the project that you didn't already give to us. If your project design is to build a shell and core building because you don't have the layouts for the floors, you don't have tenants yet, you're building a shell and core building. That will become your package 3. And then any tenant improvements. Should you be building a shell and core building and you don't have any tenants yet, tenant improvements later will be done through separate permits as that work proceeds. But if you're like most of the state projects that do this process, and you're doing a shell and core building and your floor layouts are still in the works, we will take those as additional reviews and approval packages within the same permit application after the shell and core has been permitted, so that we can confirm all that information to be done. Again, this is something you'll have to talk about with us in your preliminary plan review meeting, so we can talk about how to outline it and how to prepare those packages and things that will have to take place. And when you're ready for those, please email our helpline, and we can create additional subfolders for the different tenant improvement submittals to build out those floors at the same time as all the construction is happening, just again, breaking the package into different pieces along the way. If the project contains more than one building, make sure you're following all the instructions for our multiple building submittals. Architectural plans include, but not limited to, again, descriptive scope of work, deferred items, special instructions, our building code data analysis from package 1. If you have any changes to the building code analysis, You will make those on the same sheets that you made them in package 1, and you'll actually just resubmit those same sheets for the package 1 in the package 1 folder in project docs, which we'll go over. And there'll be like another version of a revision to those sheets, and that's where we'll review them against the previously submitted sheets, and then we can approve them if they're approvable. We don't want to have 2 different sets of code analysis in the packages that have differing information if it is something has changed between package 1 and package 3. We already talked about all that. You'll need to give us, make sure you have a complete list of hazardous materials and quantities. This is something you can find information about in the fire code in chapter 50. We want floor plans to indicate the use of each space with furniture and fixture plans, seating plans for all possible event configurations if applicable. We do have times where they have large conference rooms and they want to have different configuration setups, which could definitely impact your egress requirements. So if you plan on having different configurations, show us plans for those rooms in potential configurations that you've been made aware of. All rated wall types for exterior walls, any firewalls, barriers, partitions, etc. Your exterior walls and exterior elevations and your protected and unprotected opening calculations per floor. All interior elevations reflect the ceiling plan finish schedules, roof and floor ceiling assemblies, interior and exterior wall plans, including framing details, fire resistance range details, connection details to the structural elements, shaft enclosures, partitions, smoke barriers, opening protectives, exit enclosures. All of those things that are required to have ratings shall include their applicable UL listings. We want your exterior wall cladding systems, including the installation and finish systems, curtain walls, storefronts, all of that. Your building wall cross sections, door window schedules, code required signage like exit signage, occupancy postings in applicable assembly rooms, any applicable warning signs, door labeling, stair labeling, evacuation maps, where those are going, if you're posting them on the walls, etc. All your stairs, handrails, and guards and associated cross sections and details need to be included as well. Same thing for all your mechanical and plumbing. All of the information about the utility plan, the information for each floor, all the equipment and fixture schedules, calculations, refrigeration system, and refrigerant classifications, any of your smoke control and smoke exhaust designs, all your ducting information, vertical riser diagrams, seismic constraint details, all locations of smoke detectors and fire detectors and duct smoke detectors, all locations of smoke fire dampers, location and programming of all control devices, waste and vent materials, sizing and isometric layouts, water supply distributions, sizing calculations, isometric layouts, indirect waste materials, sizing and cleanouts, fuel gas piping information, combustion air openings, gas venting, cross connection, primary and secondary roof drainage, piping plans and calculations, and any sand, oil, or grease interceptors with calculations. Electrical plans. For the scope of work, you need to have an electrical site plan, including all the floor plans, the lighting, power, communications, any specialty systems and circuits identified, scaled drawings of all the electrical rooms, elevator machine rooms, generator rooms, and fire pump rooms, electrical symbol schedule and legend, switchboard and panel information, electrical specifications for all HVAC and refrigeration equipment, fixture schedules, all locations of normal and emergency panel boards and distribution equipment, power distribution plans of signal line diagrams indicating size and types of transformers, etc. Raceway information, all overcurrent protection, bus bracing fault calculation, current calculations, complete electrical load calculations, seismic restraint, the protection of emergency and standby systems, all egress illumination and egress identification, all systems supplied by emergency and standby power, location of emergency lighting with photometric justification, the emergency generator location and the list unloading of equipment and duration for the legally required emergency power and standby power systems, the fuel type, and show the safety features and signage. Are there any questions on package 3? I don't see any yet. If any come up, we'll go back. Notes on plans, we wanted acknowledgement of responsibility because this is partial permitting. Designs are coming in, and we are issuing a permit up front to start work. So all the following notes have to be added on the cover sheet and construction plans of each partial permit package with an electronic signature of the designer of record and registered design professional. This is the note that'll have to be provided. I'll let you guys review that. It is currently on our submittal now. The one thing that has been changed is that it used to say information here about permits for subsequent partial packages may not be issued. We changed it to approval. Project inspections. It's the responsibility of the permit applicant to schedule all required project inspections once the work is ready for inspection. Please be advised that inspections will not be performed for unpermitted work, nor for work that is not shown on the approved plans or specific scope of work. A certificate of occupancy will only be issued when construction of the entire building is completed, inspected, and approved. Are there any questions on the partial permitting process? Right, we'll go back to our regular instructions. We talked about local fire access form already under the process, but basically we want the local fire department to review the submittals for any elements that would directly impact their response to emergencies. The form has to be printed on the sheets so that it is part of your submission and not a attachment that is not included with the plans. We don't want it to be something that could be lost or misplaced. We want it scanned to the plans. Any alternate means and methods requests, they will use the current GOVmotus application that you have. You will also have to follow our instructions for requesting an alternate means and methods of request. That is on our website currently, and it is already there. Essentially, there is a letter that you have to write with the reason for your request, the intent of the code, how you plan to provide something equivalent or better than, and submit that to us for review. If we review it, the signed AMMR will be scanned and placed on the construction drawings prior to permit approval. You can submit the AMMRs with your plans, and we're required actually to be submitted with your plans. We can take a look at it, and if we approve it, then we'll tell you that it's approved, and we'll at least send your plans back to you for that to be scanned and resubmitted. There's a question in the chat. 1 second. Part 9. Oh, sorry, you're going back to this part 9 copy. Okay, so there was confusion there. Applicant for us is the project. We said applicant because that's who our permanent applicant is, usually the state. If the state is having you submit, then the project and its design team, its whole the contractor, everybody involved with the project, it's up to them to make the required requests for inspections and making sure everything gets inspected. For Troy, all of these updates will be trying to provide, well, we are trying to provide these updates this week. I don't get to post them myself, or I would post them right now. The request has been made. and our website people that manage it will post those as soon as they process them. I don't have a thing, hopefully by the end of this week. For this one, I don't have an answer for you on this one. For Eric, for your question about non-licensed, if you get to if you're going to do a partial permitting, I would bring that up in your preliminary meeting. For coal, for Winston Coal at DGS, if we come across illegal work, we will do a spot inspection. We will include the code section that tells you you're required to have a permit for work. We will write you a violation, and we will get one of our supervisors involved, and then they will handle that process from there. It's really handled by our field staff and their supervisor. Question for Tony at DOT. We issue the COC. We don't do construction inspections after we issue the COC. So if we've issued that, we should be done with inspections. If you're talking about like our annual inspections, that's not part of this discussion. Going back to our plan review submittal requirements. Permit extensions. Per the building code, you get 1 year to commence work on your project before your permit becomes invalid. We are setting up our system with some changes that will give you a notification 60 days from that 12 months to let you know that you are coming up on that time frame, so that you can work on getting an extension put together and submit it over to our area supervisor that your project is in. If they grant you an extension, your extension is good for 180 days. They can extend more than one time. And as far as when the new code cycle is, this is the information in our documents, but check with them and see if they will grant you an extension further into the new code cycle that has taken effect. The request is in writing. We do require you to, this process here will tell you how to do it. It's on our website. That process has not changed. You fill out an extension request letter. You provide them the information that's also in this process explanation, and the area supervisor reviews it. They'll sign the extension request, and it will get uploaded to your managed documents of your permit application. They will also usually email you and send you a copy as well. Okay, question for Tony. Okay, so if you're leasing a new building, it's going to depend on whether or not you fall under the specified state occupied. For those of you that aren't familiar with that, SB 85 created a specific list of instances where the state leases a building or a portion of a building, and when the OSFM is the AHJ for those instances, in which case the C of C or C of O would come from us and not from the lesser. If it is you're moving in and you don't fall under one of the 11 conditions specified state occupied that's listed in the building code, then we are not the AHJ, and you would be working with the lesser and the local fire department. Winston, what constitutes commencement of work? You have to be under construction. So if you're starting demo and you continue, maybe our staff comes out. It's really more that we're trying to make sure you have a valid permit when you start work. If you start work and it was 2 years ago that your permit expired, that's not good. So if you're starting work but not continuing on, the field staff will probably have been made aware that you had started work, and they'll keep coming out, and they will they'll check in with your project. Permit extensions go directly to the area supervisor, and you can find that information. Let me pull up our website here. You can find the information under our website. So if you go to the OSFM, click on what we do, come down to fire and life safety. And under fire and life safety, under general information, we have a contact list. And each office will have the supervisor listed directly underneath it. You can call them and talk to them and get the request over to them. They'll let you know what their email is, or if you're familiar with the state emailing system, it should be following the typical format if you're aware of that. But you'll reach out to them. No, the specified occupied list is not in this guideline. It is in the building code in chapter 1, section 1.11 for where the OSFM has jurisdiction. A question for Yolanda from DOT about if you have an approved permit and the model number of your generator changes, you will submit that to your local field deputy that's part of your project, and that is something that they will handle, and the information will come from them. It's not part of the plan review information, which is what we're talking about today. For the question from DGS about seismic fire joints in our building, you would need a permit for that work, and especially if you're doing fire joints, you would need an inspection as well. Go back to our plan review instructions, items that we require on all plans. This is our building data analysis. We kind of went over these in the partial permitting a little bit, but this is when we ask you guys to provide a building data analysis on your plans. This is the information we're looking for. This allows us to get a snapshot of your building and kind of points us to typical things that may be required based on the information provided. We also require a GOVmotus permit application number. It will look like something like this. And it's printed on all the information that you get on your paperwork from us, and it's on the screens of your dashboard, which we'll show you in a little bit. Over-the-counter reviews. We provide examples here of things that are acceptable for over-the-counter, which are limited to 60 minutes. And then examples of projects that do not qualify for over-the-counters. This information has not changed from what is currently on our website. If you'd like to read about there, I'll save some time instead of going over it all now. OTC information. There has been a change here. Starting this week, we have moved OTCs to Wednesdays. They used to be on Tuesdays. Now they're on Wednesdays. The times are the same and everything else is the same, just moving it from Tuesdays to Wednesdays. They're still handled on a first come, first served basis. If a lot of people show up and we don't get to you before the last time to take one in at 12:30 happens, you may not be guaranteed a review. If we have staff that are available to continue to do those kinds of reviews, we will do that. But if they've been committed to other meetings or other work, they will have to go back to doing that work. Another change we have is prior to coming into our office, or when you come in, you have to have a completed application. Prior to coming to our office, if you are coming in for a back check resubmittal, an addendum, or deferred approval for projects that are submitted after February 7th, you will need to wait before you come in until after you receive approval from us so that we know that your existing permit status is in a position to where you have requested a back check, requested the addendum, or made a new review request for a deferred approval, and that those have been accepted before showing up. We have had to turn some people away at the counter because their permit statuses were not in a position to do these kinds of review, and they were showing up kind of out of turn. So again, kind of like we're asking to wait to mail your plans. We make these requests in the system. We'll show you how to do that. And then once you get an approval notice from us for that, you can come in for an over-the-counter. Plans that have submitted through our normal process, we will not take them out of the queue. So if you have paper plans, because that's what we only allow paper plans for over-the-counters. If you have mailed your plans to us and they've been sitting in our queue, and then you come in for an over-the-counter, and we go to look up your permit history and it shows that your permits are already in our queue, we will not review them. We won't pull them out of the queue to do your over-the-counter review. You've already been submitted, you've already started. You're already in the queue, you'll get reviewed through the normal review process at that point. And then due to limited space in our office, only one project representative and one design professional with signature authority will be allowed to attend the review. That way, should a minor change that could be made with, on site by hand be approved by the person who has the ability to sign, we do allow that, but we would prefer not to have the entire design team come to the over-the-counter. And again, electronic over-the-counters are not permitted at this time. Looks like we have some more questions in the chat. Let me read those and we'll answer those. So Dan, I'm not sure I understand your question. You're talking about leasing buildings that are privately owned. If you'll need to go review the section in the building code, section 1.11. If it falls under one of those, we are the AHJ, you have to submit to us, and we're the ones that give you certificate of completion for any work done as part of the move-in. And we give you a certificate of occupancy even if there is no work to move in. We validate that the existing construction complies with the code so that you can move in. For Tiana, the question about emergency responder radio coverage in our building data analysis, we are looking for you to say yes or no as to whether or not you are including it in the scope of work that you will be, whether it is required, like if you know the building will not have radio coverage without an ERC system and an ERC system is needed, then yes, you're planning on having it included in the building as a basis of the design. For JT, there is not a selection option for OTC in GOVmotus. It's just a permit type. If you fall within the acceptable, and again, this is not a complete list, but if you fall within the acceptable types of submissions, or if you're coming in for very small comment list back checks, addendums, and deferred approvals, then we will accept that at the counter and do that review. If you come in and something turns out to not be something we can do in the 1 hour provided, we take that in, we give it to our intake staff, and we place it on the shelf in the queue to wait its turn for a review. Question for David. If your project was originally submitted prior to February 7th, you do not need to do the back check or addendum request. You can come in and we will follow the normal process. You will see on your screen those controls because it's being turned on site-wide. But we will take a look at you when your project was started. And like I said, we're not going to make you go back and follow different processes. You could click it and you could wait for that request. And your question about how long that might take, I would say that we typically get to normal stuff that comes into our intake within a day or two. Obviously, if there's a holiday involved or over the weekend, we're not going to be working those days. I would say a day or two at the most. So if you submit it, if you know you want to come in next week for an over-the-counter and you submit this week, we should be able to tell you whether or not you're in a position to come in for that. JT, yes, paper for OTC when setting up the application. We do not accept electronic reviews for over-the-counters. We do not do expedited reviews. As a first come, first served basis, we don't do expedited reviews. Everybody would want one, and then it would still turn into who came first. So we do first come, first serve. It's statewide, and we review in the order received. Okay, so for Tony, we're going to go ahead and we're going to show the code section here for the specified state occupied information. I'm just pulling up the electronic codes. So when you open your code books, you're going to come to chapter 1 for scope and administration. This may be a little small. 1 second, let me zoom in. Hopefully that makes it easier to see. Under chapter 1, there are 2 divisions. You're going to come to division 1 for California administration. Scroll down to section 1.11 for Office of the State Fire Marshal. And then under here, you will find specified state occupied buildings. This is any building or structure or area that meets any of the following criteria. A building where the state has contracted into a build-to-suit lease, a courthouse holding facility or trial court with a detention area, a building used by the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation as a community correctional reentry center, if the building is 100% state occupied. If the state occupied areas in a state lease building that are a high rise and are 75% of the net area of floor space or more is occupied by the state. So if it's a high rise and we lease less than 75% of the net floor area, then we are not the AHJ. If it is more than that, we are responsible for the state areas. State occupied areas in a building contains 5,000 square feet or more of space that is state leased Group H or Group L occupancy. A state leased building with facilities with the primary purpose of housing state records and or state artifacts of historical significance. All properties leased by a CSU. State institutions and their real property. State institutions are going to be prisons and state hospitals. Any CAL FIRE occupied areas in a leased building. So even if it's a high rise and there is 1 suite in that building and it is leased by CAL FIRE, that CAL FIRE occupied area is under the jurisdiction of the OSFM. And last, if any state leased facilities with the governing body fire protection services rely on an all volunteer fire department, we would be the authority having jurisdiction over those state leased facilities. So if it is one of these 11 items, we are the authority having jurisdiction. Your submissions need to come to us and we do all of the required items. If it falls outside of these as a leased building, not state owned, but leased, if it falls outside of these 11 items, we are not the AHJ. You would proceed to submit to the local officials. Does that help clear up that question? Awesome. Another question. Question about originally submitted an application with electronic submittal and later decided to do over the counter. Should the original application just be canceled? If you submit to us electronically and we put you in the queue, we are keeping you in the queue. You've submitted, you're in the queue, you've taken a placeholder, and you've submitted at that point. If you know that you want to do a paper submittal, then please submit paper from the beginning. Yes, correct statement. Caltrans airspace is covered by the SFM. Okay, continuing with over-the-counter stuff. Again, according with paper, no electronics. Our next section is addendums. For the purposes of the OSFM, an addendum is a change requested to be made to approved documents before work has commenced. These will include the request for addendums will be utilize your existing permit application that your original plans were approved under. You will not use a separate permit application. For the paper format, before you mail your stuff to our office, we need you to request an addendum review from within your GOVmotus permit application. Once you open the application, you'll click Create New Review Request in the control panel on the left side of the screen. Choose the plan review type, and then if it's not there, list that to us. After you submit, again, wait till you receive notification from us that we've verified that you're in a position to submit that addendum, and then you can mail your plans in. You shall have to follow all of the paper plan review requirements. Your plans need to, your revised plans need to make sure that you have the approved GOVmotus application number included. So for example, if your addendum doesn't include a revised cover sheet where your permit number is normally located, when you mail your paper plans in, you can include a copy of the GOVmotus application. You can write the number on a piece of paper and roll it up with your plans, something that lets us know what permit application your plans are for. We only want you to provide the revised sheets for review. We do want you to make sure that you've scanned and uploaded your original approved plans into the managed documents in the permit application before you mail your addendum to us. And that is one of the things that we will be looking for before we give you approval to mail your plans to us as well. Ensure that all revisions are clouded. Provide a change narrative to assist the reviewer in identifying the changes that you've made. After we approve them and stamp them and give them back to you, you'll need to take your amended documents, slip sheet them into your previously approved set, and then scan the whole set back to the managed documents to show us what your current approved set will be. Are there any questions on that? For Anthony, your question about responsible for state occupied areas, not the whole building. How would separation be determined for common use systems like fire protection, fire alarm, mechanical, etc.? It's a good question. We will probably have to do some kind of a, if it's an existing building, the current fire alarm system should have already been inspected by the local jurisdictions. And then for the areas that we're moving into, we would be able to look at the system information provided by the building and ensure that all the devices and things for our spaces are compliant, and that someone should be able to provide what the load on the system is for the entire building and ensure that any new load placed on those systems for fire alarms or water flow calculations, etc., we can confirm that the changes made for our spaces would still be compliant. If that makes sense, you should be able to get the data from the existing building and then show from the existing data with our new data that everything still works, or if it will require modifications. What is the estimated turnaround for permit approval? The estimated turnaround time is dependent on how many plans are ahead of you and what your plans are for. If it turns out there are 12 things in front of your plans and all of them are high rises and you're a high rise, it could be a while. It's hard for us to give you an exact time frame. We do have an estimation of 6 to 8 weeks of bin time, that's shelf time, before we get to stuff. Like I said, we do oftentimes beat that 6 to 8 weeks, but if a lot of people submit at the same time, then we push up to those numbers. And then the actual review time truly depends on the quality and complexity of the submittal that we're provided. The question about will the 2019, what is commonly known as the Wendy Collins memo, be updated? I don't have any information on whether that will be updated this year. I was not given any letter to update. We can write that down and we'll ask that question. And if and when we do update it, it'll get posted on the website, and we can use the same methodology that we notified everybody about these webinars through constant contact. we would send out some kind of notification that we've provided those updates. That way you would know that you could go and take a look at it. Okay, so which section? Still addendums. Okay, so addendums for electronic format. For electronic addendums, so this is where you have gotten approval on your electronic plans and you've been issued a permit and now you have a change. You're going to email the helpline to get a new workflow started in Project Docs. This is what you already do. Some of you email our intake staff directly. Our direction is going to be to email the helpline. For example, if you email Tanya and Tanya is out on vacation, your request will sit until Tanya comes back. If you email the helpline, there are more people that see that email address and that account, and we will be able to help you faster in case the person that you do email is out of the office. So email the helpline. In your email, include the permit number and the name of your addendum. We will start a new workflow. After we review your request, make sure that you're in a process and position to have an addendum workflow be started. We will start that, which will trigger a new upload and submit task that you normally get when you first submit. And you'll follow the normal upload and submit requirements that you did the first time around just for your addendums. It will go through the same cycles and processes. You only need to provide the revised sheets. We do want to change narrative, put into the reference docs folder. And then once we've reviewed and approved, those sheets will get stamped and versioned into the approved folder, and you'll get an email that says we've approved your plans, and then you can go find them in the approved folder. The same process you normally receive for your initial submittals and electronic plans and addendums now. All right, multiple buildings in one set of plans. We sometimes get asked, can we put all of our buildings in one set of plans? We do allow this to happen, but we have a, as you can see by all the bold and underlining here, a condition for that. This is for only when the buildings are at the same facility location. We will not take multiple buildings where they're spread out across the state. For one, it's too hard to try and track different site setups and separation requirements and things like that for the different locations. So same location and multiple buildings you can include in one set of plans. All the buildings have to be submitted on one set of plans. You still need a separate permit application for each building. If you choose this route, this option does not allow any work on the buildings to commence until the entire plan set has been approved. If you have a need to start work on any building prior to the full plan approval, then you need to make sure that building is submitted in a separate set of plans with its own permit outside of the multi-building set submittal. Once the multi-building set plan set has been submitted and we're in the review process, and say on your back check you want to remove one of the buildings, we can't, because if we have comments on the sheets that you wanted removed, we can't delete those until we clear the comments. And some of the comments that we have may be applicable across multiple sheets. Essentially, once this type of review starts, you're stuck with it. So please plan ahead. If you know that you have a building that needs to start first, for whatever reason, submit it separately. This is purely for people who want to do multi-buildings in one set of plans, generally to save on having repetitive sheets for details, site information, and things like that. Once we start it, we can't undo it. So make sure you're thinking about those things before you choose to go down this path. Following requirements for the multi-building set, one set of plans. We can do this in paper or electronic. One application for each building. The cover sheet needs to list all the applications with the building names next to them. Next to the building that you're choosing to be your primary application for the building, we want you to put the word primary. This is where all your plan review will happen. We suggest that you make this the building that you are scheduling to be completed last. That way, any kind of plan review and deferrals and things like that can take place under that application and not impact any kind of inspection work or anything like that. On your applications, your master permit application, the primary application shall be noted in the master permit application field on all the other applications for your other buildings. We can show you that in a minute if you're not familiar with that when we show the screen of the application process. If you're submitting on paper plans, all the applications shall be identified as paper. If you're submitting on electronic plans, your primary permit application shall be electronic. All of your other GOVmotus applications will need to be set to paper. The reason for this is that if you submit them electronically, it will start workflows in electronic plan review for those permit numbers because they are separate permit numbers. We don't want to perform as many buildings as you have. We don't want to perform that many reviews. So it will require you to upload plans. It will require you to do all of the steps, which means you would have to submit your plans that many times and we'd review them that many times and charge you for all those reviews. You don't want that. So your primary, if you're going electronic, would get an electronic submission type. All your plans would be submitted under that primary permit application number. The rest are paper, and we will process and issue permits to those ones once your plans are approvable, and then that's how they will be set up for inspections in the field. Are there any questions on that? There's some questions in the chat as well, so let's see. The question for Stephen Johnson from CDCR: for multi-building projects, does each permit have its own construction start date? Not particularly. Basically, if you put a multi-building set of plans together, you can start construction once the approved set of plans are in place. Once you have approved plans, you can start construction on each building whenever you would like. The question from High Speed Rail: what if all the buildings have the same address but have 3 suites? I'm not following with the suites. Usually the suites are inside the building. Do you mean basically all 3 buildings the same address, but they're like they're separate buildings, but they're not? Well, they have one address, but they're like building A, building B, building C. Is that what you're asking? Right. So as long as they are separate buildings, and by design, because you can have instances where buildings are connected and still designed as one building, you will have to have separate applications for each of those buildings in a multi-building submittal set. Yes. Good question for Stephen Johnson on CCR. For a multi-building project, if one of the other permits that you're issued, one of your paper permits, expires before completion of the entire project, we consider the commencement of work as the start of your project. You do not have to complete your work by the time the permit has expired. You just have to start the work. For multi-building submittals, in thinking about this, you may receive a notification for some of your paper applications that have been issued permits that say you're 60 days from expiration. If you get those and you're in the field, reach out to your deputy, ask them questions. But if you have started construction on a multi-building set, you're fine. It just may be a thing where the system's going to send something because that's the way it's designed, and you have multiple permits. Maybe for some reason, some of the work in one of the buildings hasn't resulted in an inspection yet, and that's why there's no work shown on that permit, and that's why you get that notification. But your field deputy will let you know if you need to do anything and if you need an extension. But again, if you've started work, then you don't need an extension. Okay, looks like those are all the questions. Thanks to everybody who's providing information for free codes to those who don't have ICC access. Those are good links. Okay, moving on. This section is for paper plan review. This is talking about all the requirements that we have. It tells you where to mail them, tells you which sizes that we accept. It tells you that for documents such as specification packages that we want them in 8.5 by 11. Your submittals, we need them to be appropriately bound. If we unroll your plans and they fall apart and land on the floor, they will go in the recycling bin and we will ask you to resubmit a bound set of plans. The weight per roll is 40 pounds. This has to do with, for those of you that work for the state, workman's comp requirements. We can't require our employees to lift things that are more than what's in their job description. So 40 pounds or less is the weight limit for each roll. We talk about these other things below, but basically your title block has to follow certain configurations in your plans. Have to be in accordance with the drawing scale requirements, which we'll get to as we scroll through this document. Your plans have to be signed and stamped by the responsible licensed design professional. Please do not contain some things that used to be accepted in the past, where they had pre-printed our OSM approval stamp so that we just had to provide our signature and a date. We don't do that anymore, not even on paper plans. Just provide a space for our stamp in accordance with our stamping requirements, which we'll also go over. We only need one copy of your plans, even for paper. We do not keep your plans. We mail them back to you. We require you to upload them to the managed documents section after they've been approved. Once you submit, your plans for paper cannot be changed to electronic format. So like I said, you need to determine what you're submitting before you submit, because you're gonna be locked in. Plans ready to be picked up from our office are the responsibility of the applicant. Outgoing plans will be held for 5 business days. After that, we say they'll be recycled if you don't respond. If we reach out to you and you're working on getting us a mailing label, and you exceed the 5 days, obviously we're not going to recycle your plans. We have had some plans though that we've contacted people. They said they'd come pick them up, and a month later the plans were still sitting at our desk. So we can't keep holding people's plans for longer. Plus, the potential for them to get lost or misplaced goes up. So we want you to come pick them up, preferably within 5 business days of after we approve your paper plans. If you want us to mail them back to you, provide us a mailing label and pickup service through a courier service such as FedEx, UPS, or is it GLS or GSL? I think it's GSL. That might be a typo.
Oh.
GSL for Golden State.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whichever one it is, provide us the mailing label so we can put it on the package, and you can pick up your plans from our office, or we will mail them back to you if you provide the label. Once your paper plans are stamped and approved, as I said, you got to scan them, upload them to managed documents into your permit application. Paper plans with multiple permits in one plan set will only be uploaded to the primary permit designed for plan review. So if you did all paper plans and you put the word primary next to the one that you submitted your review under, you only need to scan and upload your plans to that permit. You do not need to scan them to all 12 buildings in your multiple permit set of plans. That's why we have you do the master child permit application setting, which we'll go over. And that way, when we open up a set of plans, there's no plans, or open up a permit that doesn't have a set of plans uploaded, we see that it's a child permit to a different permit. We go to that permit, and that's where your plans will be. Any amended construction documents that you give us on paper shall be slip sheeted into the previously approved set, and the entire submittal shall be uploaded again so that your managed documents has a complete approved set of plans in it for our field staff to, or any of our staff to review and look at. Before I go into electronic, let me see if there's any questions. No, there's not. Okay. Electronic plan review. Okay, so everything submitted through EPR has to follow the requirements below. not contain the pre-printed OSM approval stamps. You have to follow drawing file requirements, title block configurations, drawing scales, naming standards, which we'll go over as well. They should be electronically stamped and signed. We do not need, and this includes paper. I think we had it written down somewhere, but I'll just go ahead and state it. We are still receiving, in some instances, even in electronically submitted documents, the letter for electronic signature authorization. We used to require that on our paper plans. If you were going to electronically sign your plans, we required you to wet sign a letter saying that you authorized that signature. Now that we do electronic plan review, which you obviously can't provide us a wet document for that, we don't have that requirement on any plan type, not even paper anymore. So you do not need to upload those with your documents. You don't need to provide us a letter that says you authorized your signature. You could just stamp and sign them and submit them. Once you submit electronic, you have to stay electronic. And once electronic plans are approved, they will be available to be downloaded from the approved folder in Project Docs, and Project Docs will give you an email. They'll tell you that, and then you can go and find your plans. Drawing file requirements. Okay, this hasn't changed from our previous stuff, but for those who haven't experienced it before, each sheet or page has to be submitted as a separate file, and for drawings, it'd be in landscape view. We don't do multi-sheet or multi-page documents for drawing files. It has to do with how Project Docs works for comparison reviews, which is what we do for back checks and addendums and soon to be change orders as well. The separate sheets allow us to overlay the sheets on top of each other and do a quick comparison, which speeds up your review time significantly. If we do in the multi-page and sheet versions or sheet orders are changed, the comparison tool becomes very unusable, and we end up doing a side-by-side review like we do on paper. And at that point, you might as well just submit on paper because that's how long it will take us to do your review. Every sheet has to contain a version identifier in the bottom right corner of the drawing, reflected as V1, V2, V3, etc. V1 is the first time you submit to us. After you give it a review, not a pre-screen correction item where our intake staff have said, hey, you know, something's not right here, you need to change this before we'll give you a review. But after you've had an official plan review, every time you resubmit, you'll put a version indicator in the bottom right-hand corner of each sheet so that we know which version that sheet was submitted under. And we should have, if we don't have an example, I could find one, we'll try to show it to you. But essentially, it's just in the bottom right corner of your sheet, somewhere near the bottom right corner, you just put a version indicator. Same thing with supporting documents. As far as supporting documents goes, the 8.5 by 11 documents you give us, specifications, etc., we do accept those as an individual multi-page document. So much like I'm reviewing here, you can submit multiple pages in one document, and we can read through it. The system treats those documents differently when we do comparison reviews. But for the drawings, because drawings aren't all text, it doesn't work the same way. On the cover page for each supporting document, we want to have your version indicator if you're uploading a revised version of that on the next review, so that we understand which thing this came under, which version it came under, and where it should be reviewed against. I see some questions in the chat, so let me answer those real quick. So when you, for Stephen Johnson, your questions about electronic plan review, some drawings have V1 and others have V2, isn't that potentially confusing? That is why during your main plan review, we require you to resubmit all your sheets with those version indicators so that we know when they came in. Addendums and change orders and things like that, we don't require resubmissions of everything, especially if you're only changing a handful of sheets, because we don't want to do a complete whole set of review of stuff you're not changing. But we do try to reduce the confusion by having you submit all your sheets each time. The back check on that is usually pretty quick if you don't have any change other than that version number. We open the sheet, everything looks gray except the bottom right corner where there was a V1, there's now a V2, and those things show up as red and green, and we move on from that sheet. The question from the picture from Eric Schern, yes, if you want to put that as a version review, that would be fine. It could also go in the corner, somewhere near the bottom right, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches square in the bottom right corner of the page. We'll be looking somewhere there for your version indicator. File time requirements. All drawings and documents have to be in PDF format. We need you to flatten your PDF files to the smallest possible size. We do find documents that are large and don't like to play nice. We do try to download and flatten those for you, but if you guys, since you have the base information, especially when you're exporting from CAD or whatever you're drawing in, if you can reduce and flatten down all the elements to the smallest possible file size, the better. There are some files we've downloaded where when I go to try to edit the PDF to make it smaller, every character for some reason is treated as a separate image, and the file type was massive. So we have to reach out to you at that point and get you to redo the document because I can't even flatten it. So we will try to do that if we can, so that we don't have to do a back and forth thing with you, but there might be times where we have to get you to fix it. But as much as you can flatten those documents, the better. Also, for supporting your documents, 8.5 by 11s, please make the PDFs searchable, so no scans. The original documents that are like from Word and they're converted, where we can do a search for certain words and text and things like that. Somebody asked us at one point about whether or not we would support 3-dimensional files, and Project Docs does not do that, so we don't support 3-dimensional files. Yes, Tanya's answer to Wendy Adriati's question is correct. If for the change order you would do V4, because it's we're gonna get to the change order process, Wendy, as well. The current process you're used to is changing, so we'll get to that and you'll see why it should be V4. That'll come up more in a second or in a couple minutes. Electronic file naming standards. We've made some changes to this as well. All files should be numbered and named according to the order listed on your provided title sheet, cover sheet, table of contents, sheet index, whatever you want to call it. The change here is that because now everything will be done under one permit application, we have created subfolders in the drawings and documents folders in Project Docs to organize your different submissions. Each folder has a name for the typical type of submittals that we receive, including the OSPM partial permitting process. Each folder will also have a 2-digit prefix number. Your drawings and document files will need to have the prefix added to the front of the naming conventions that you already use to help identify which folder they should go in, should they be placed in the wrong folder by accident. And as well as the approved folder, when they get stamped, we are not gonna have approved subfolders. That requires a lot of extensive changes to the stamping process that we determined would not be beneficial. So by having the prefix at the front of the file names, when they're in the approved folder, they will stay grouped by their prefix number so that your construction plans stay together, your deferred fire alarms stay together, your deferred sprinklers stay together, and they don't all get intermixed with each other. And I'll show you some examples as we go through the rest of this document. The document file naming standards and drawings below, information that's below, and you can also see a list of the subfolder and prefixes. If you have any questions, apologies that this link did not be, this email address did not become a link, or maybe it is, but it didn't highlight blue. We'll try to get that fixed. You can email this helpline. and for questions on where to upload your files if you're not sure. Here's an example of what we're talking about with the folders. So we've created subfolders. When you open project docs, these folders may not be expanded, so you'll click the little plus symbol here and it will expand the subfolders. These are the typical types of submittals that we receive in our office. If you feel you have something that doesn't fall into one of these categories, again, email our helpline and we will either let you know where we want you to upload it, or maybe you have something that needs a unique folder and we will create a separate subfolder specifically for your project and give you the information on where to upload to. The information for drawings and documents is the same, with the exception of the documents folder has a folder for special events. If you're doing construction, you're probably not uploading the special events in here. If your project is trying to have a special event of some kind, like an opening ceremony or something like that, you still will not use this as part of your special event request because you will need a separate permit for that, and that will go through the separate process that will be discussed in this afternoon's meeting. We're asking you to restrict the limit of characters in the file name to 45 characters or less. We have increased it by 10 characters of what it used to say. That way we can give people a little bit more room to type out some of their sheet names. For resubmittals after review by the OSFM, all sheets have to be uploaded again and must be named exactly the same as the original file to allow for versioning. Do not put any version indicators in the file name. Do not put any dates in the file name. And if you have sheets that need to be deleted or if you need assistance, please email the helpline to ask a review coordinator, which is our intake staff, for help with deleting files or any other kind of assistance. Document file naming standards. For your 8.5 by 11 type documents, our current way that we had you do this was a 2-digit number and the name of your document. We've changed this to allow for the 2-digit subfolder prefix. And then to make sure that you're currently, if you look in your approved folder, you will find that your 2-digit number that you currently have in front of it mixes in with your drawings. So we've added this letter here. We just did a letter D for documents. By putting this letter in here, it will push all of your documents, your 8.5 by 11 files, to the bottom of the approved folder, so they won't be intermixed with all the drawings anymore. So your new naming format is a 2-digit folder prefix, a dash, the letter D, a 2-digit sequence numbers to make sure that your documents appear in the order you want them to be in. So you want them to be in this order, then they would be D01, D02, and D03. And then the name of what that document is, whatever the name is for you. I'm sure there's gonna be some questions on that, so let me check the chat and see if there's anything that needs to be answered. So going back to Robertino's question.
I answered it.
I'm going to answer it a different way.
Oh, okay.
Please do not move the content from one sheet onto another. If you do that, when we do our comparison review, it will effectively look like what we like to call a Christmas tree. There will be red, green, and yellow everywhere because nothing will align or match, and it won't work. So if you really have a reason to change it, as Tanya said, it could very greatly, please reach out to us. I mean, you're going to have to give me a really good reason why you have to change the sheet number and name to do that, because you could potentially end up where your files, because we can't delete them once they have planetary comments on them, where we'll have to like inform the reviewer of a lot of information that they'll have to understand moving forward, and they'll have to try to clear comments on 2 different types of sheets or 2 different sheets, and it'll be really complicated. So I give you an example. We had someone who submitted a set of plans, and their initial stuff said basement, but their sheets said basement 1 through 4. And during the review, I caught it and I said, you can't, like, it just says basement. And they said on their next submittal, they would just change the file name, but they couldn't change the file name. So what they did was they left basement and put basement in, and then we had them name another sheet for floors 1 through 4 and submit and move that content. But we let them do that because there weren't any violation marks that would result in that. Moving your content around, especially if there's a comment related to it, is going to be a big problem. So I guess we'd have to figure out why you have to change the sheet name first.
Fonda's was answered.
Did you answer this one?
No, not that.
For Eric Shern, if you were scheduled to submit this week, if you were going to submit before Friday, you could submit the way it's currently on our website now. If you submit after Thursday, so you start submitting on Friday, then you'll need to follow the new format. It's up to you if you want to try to get in before that, or you can provide the change to the files, and we're going to go over the drawing change here in a second. And then you could submit on Friday officially and follow the new process if you would like. Okay. Okay, so that was documents. Scrolling down to drawing file names. So similar, this paragraph here is going to just describe what's in this picture, so I'm just going to scroll down to it. Existing, you have a 4-digit number, your sheet number, and your sheet name. We're asking you to add the 2-digit prefix number and a dash to the front of that existing format. That's the only change you'll have to make. And your prefix number will be in the order of the folders that we showed above. Should you find, especially for your drawings, that you need to add files in, and they need to fall into a very specific place in the order because it needs to be here. So in this example, if you need to add a sheet between G031 and A021, and they're labeled 2 and 3, then what you'll do is you'll use a decimal process. It's the same requirements we have now. You could just make the sheet that goes in between 0002.1, and when you upload it, it will insert between these two files. If you're going to have more than 9 sheets being inserted, you need to do a 2 decimal system where it's 0.01. So that after you get past 0.09, then 10 becomes 0.10, and then 11 is 0.11, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you could plan ahead if you want and do a 2 decimal system from the beginning, it will not be a problem. It will still fall between sheets 2 and 3, and that is how you slide something into the middle of these without renaming every one of your files, and how you submit a new document on a back check or an addendum because we will not change your file names past your initial submittal because they are locked in. Are there any questions on that? Okay. There's a question. Okay. The character number goes up to 45. The multiple buildings, the prefix number going 1 to 2 is not based on your buildings. It is based on these folders. Your multi-building submittals, because everything's being included in one set of plans, they're all going to be, all the buildings will be in your construction drawings. Or if it's a partial permitting type system, they'll all be in each package. So you won't change the prefix based on your building, just the folder prefix names. Okay, title block configuration is something that we talked about earlier about things I have to comply with. You just come down to this section to get that information. This is basically where we're talking about sheet sizes and what types of documents those are, and where the stamp location needs to be. And when we say box dimensions here, this is for what our box on our stamp takes up. So we have a box around our stamp. It is included with our stamp. And this is the dimensions that that takes up. So what you need to provide is a clear space in these locations here that will accommodate our stamp. And we have some examples down here. And I want to make a note that if you're submitting 36 by 48 inch plans, we only take those electronically, as they will fall off of our desks. They're so large when we flip the sheets, at some point, it's kind of funny, they just fly right off the edge and then they disappear onto the floor. So please only submit these larger size files electronically. This is an example of an 8.5 by 11 in the bottom right corner, 1 inch up and 1 inch from the right. So from the bottom of the page and the right side of the page, so 1 inch from the bottom, 1 inch from the right, we will be stamping right here. And this box is 2.5 by 3.3 inches. So if you provide a clear space on any of your documents that is bigger than that, or if you just like aim for 4 inches by 3 inches, and this is nothing existing in this corner, our stamp should apply here, no problem. If we find that our stamp, you have something in the way, we will ask you to move it so that our stamp will not be obstructed. For all of the sheet sizes, these measurements are from the upper right corner of the sheet. This is not the margin. This is the, if you were to print it out, this would be the physical edge of the sheet, or on your, when you're electronically looking at it, the very edge of the white area of the document, not a margin that you print from inside where your document stays to. So from here, our stamp will position, the top of the box will be at 3.5 inches down, and it will extend down to 6 inches down, and our box is 2.5 inches wide. So if you can provide a clear area that is, I don't know, from 3 inches to 6.5 inches, that is 3 inches wide, you should have no problem. If you want to get closer, you can. If you want to provide a box that you think will fit in, that you can. If our box slightly overlaps part of your title block or a box that you create for us, it'll be fine as long as it does not obstruct our text. We won't be that nitpicky about it. But if your title block or other information cuts off any of our stamp verbiage, we will kick it back to you and say that you need to provide a clear space. Drawing scale requirements. We require that all plans be drawn to scale. Question in the chat about stamps. Correct. For an 8.5 by 11 multi-page document, is only for your cover sheet. Let me go back up to this this thing here. For this is here, it is the cover page only. But for all of your sheets, it is on every sheet, each sheet. Going back to drawing scale requirements. All plans are required to be drawn to scale. Each sheet needs to tell us the independent scale. We had some submissions that the scale was listed on like the cover sheet, and then nothing was there to tell us if it was still in the same scale on subsequent sheets. So we want information about the scale. Wherever it is changed, tell us what the scale is. If you have different details that have different scales, tell us what the scale is so that we can adequately review your plans for compliance. We require there to be a scale bar on the sheet. This allows us to use, if you provide a scale per scale bar, and it's not a typical 1/8 or 3/32 or anything that is a typical thing you'd find on a typical scale ruler. Project Docs doesn't allow us to do random, like I can't type in a random scale. I have preset settings. So if you provide a scale bar, that's respective for what's on your sheet, then we can configure our measuring tool to your scale bar so that it will then measure appropriately for any kind of odd scaling sizes. Fire alarm plans, we want in 1/8 scale. That's a typical thing out of NFPA 72 for fire alarm plans. Specific requirements for electronic plans, all your drawings. This came from our project docs instructions from the vendor. The drawings need to be calibrated. I think what they mean is that you need to ensure that the scale that you set it to is what the scale that was drawn at. I guess there's a way to save the drawings in a different ratio or scale than what you intended it to be. Just make sure that it's all in alignment when you upload them. Your fire alarm plans need to have a general note identifying the required detector spacing based on NFPA 72. The spacing outline templates, we provide some spacing outline templates provided below. We need these to be printed, these coverage plates here, these templates, on one of your sheets or just in your fire alarm submittals or things. We need you to provide us a template like this at the scale that your drawings are at to show these things. Those of you that are familiar with, I can't remember the name of the company that produces them, but they're for paper plans. There are these plastic templates or plastic measuring tools for firearm coverage devices. Since on our screen we can't use those, if you provide us a template that looks like these, and for your wall-mounted devices, has a scaled for all of the candelas that you're using and ceilings, etc., we can come into project docs, we can draw a box over your scaled item for the candela coverage, for the ceiling height, etc., and then we can paste those on your plans over each device to show how far their coverage will reach. So you providing these scaled measuring tools for us allows us to do the evaluation of your fire alarm and smoke detector coverages. Here's another example of a ceiling mount plate for 10-foot ceilings. Again, you provide this as a scaled drawing to match your floor plans. We draw a box around this, and then we know that for 75 candela, that's the coverage range for that device. I think there was a couple questions. Good question. The previous file naming said no dashes. The new naming that includes dash. Yes, you can use a dash. I want to say in setting that up last time, we took that advice from the vendor. We took it from their base instructions, but I think that they've allowed, per the drawings and the examples that I provided in this document, dashes will work in the system. In your file names, do not include any slashes or any kind of special characters. Keep it simple to periods, dashes, things like that. Nothing out of the ordinary. Don't throw any brackets in there or parentheses or anything. Just dashes and periods should be fine. There's some people that do the underscoring. If I scroll back up really quick, if you do underscoring, we can't tell because all the file names are underlined when they get uploaded. So if you were doing that before because it said not to do dashes, switch to dashes if you want to have a dash in there. Because sometimes trying to figure out why a file name isn't versioning properly, it's hard for us to tell if there's just a space here or if there's an underline here. We're not sure. So try not to do those. If you have them, you have them. We're not going to kick it back for that, but it just slows us down trying to figure out the problem. Okay. All right, so everything we've talked about so far is all the different kinds of things that we accept and do and the requirements and things like that. This section, I know it's at the bottom, but it's an intentional design so that you read through all the things before you just follow these submission instructions without reading about your deferral or your addendum before you just follow these instructions, which is about submitting. And we didn't want you to submit something without first reading all of the requirements for things above. So in here, it talks about how to set up your browser for Chrome. If you use a different browser, you'll have to figure out how to set it up, but you need to set it up to where you can go to the site settings and you need to allow pop-ups because the task comes up as a pop-up window. When you click on the files, they open up as a separate pop-up window. So you want to enable pop-ups. And if your IT security people are like ours and they only want it to allow from certain sites, there usually is a configuration in your browser setting to allow from certain sites. And please add our GOVmotus site and our Project Docs site as acceptable sites to accept pop-ups from. Otherwise, you may not see all the information that it's trying to open. So when you're ready to submit to us, you need to come to our application system. It's a web-based program. The web address is here. If you have never come to here before, you will register. You need to register as a user. So you'll click register. You'll fill out the I think there's like 6 pieces of information: your name, who you are, phone number, things like that. And you'll set up a password and you'll create your account. Once you have that, you can log in. Once you log in, your dashboard will have a couple of sections. It'll have a section for my permits. It'll have a section for my licenses. If you submit for licenses through our fire engineering division, they also use the GOVmotus program, and we let your public user account handle both of those processes. There's also a section for signatures and things like that as well. And I'll give you a sample of that in a minute. I know these images are a little blurry because of the screen share, but I'll just make sure we show you a dashboard and what it looks like. But there's a section for apply new permit. There's a large blue button at the bottom of the My Permit section. If you click that, it will open up a brand new application. In that application, there are fields that are red. Those are required fields. You'll need to fill all that stuff out. Those fields are project name. We want you to identify the name of the building the application applies to after the project name. So if you have tenant improvement, that's not really a description for us. So tenant improvement at the Bateson building, that tells us what it's for without having to go to the plans. It's when we're looking in the system and it just says tenant improvement as a project name, it doesn't help us when we're trying to find a permit number based off of information about the project when someone doesn't have the permit number to give us. Project description, provide a brief description of the scope of work. We do have some people who upload a lot of information there. Just try to keep it as a brief description of your scope of work so that when we print documents and things, it doesn't eat up several pages worth of data before it continues on to other information the document is trying to pass on to you. Master permit number field, as I talked about earlier, is used to, is for multi-building submittals, and we'll go over that. I'll show that on the screen where you have to put that. I mentioned the schematic drawing checkbox. If you know you're doing bid documents that are not ready for construction, you can check it ahead of time. If not, we will check it during our review. There's a section for building contractor. We get questions about this a lot. That section has no red fields. That means it's optional. If you don't know the building contractor yet, you do not have to enter anything into that section. The agency name under the agency information field, this is the name of the state agency the project is related to. It is not your architecture firm. It is not your engineering firm. It is the state agency that is hiring you to do the work. The agency billing code is the billing account for the name of the state agency that is paying for the project. If you can't find it, ask them for it. Hopefully they're also the ones that are submitting so they know it. I will promise you this, unless you are the Office of the State Fire Marshal submitting plans, it is not OSFM. We are not paying for your project. Please do not choose us. So that is not who you're submitting to. That is who is submitting and who we are billing for the work. Agency contact info. We, again, do not want somebody at your design firm. We want, or the contractor, we want the state representative, the project director, project manager, whatever they're going under. We want their information. The construction cost. This is the overall construction cost for all elements of the project. For multiple building submittals on the same project, we want the construction cost on your primary permit application, the one that we're doing all of your plan review under. If it's electronic, that'll be your electronic one. All your other applications, you can put 0 into. This way we don't double count your construction cost in the reports that we run for evaluating what the construction costs are in the state. I think there's some questions in the chat. Correct. Right now, we only have one user up per permit. I will tell you, we are trying to work with the vendor to get that changed on an upcoming set of enhancements. I'm not promising it. But we are planning to take a look into it and what it would entail, and if it will be possible in a beneficial way. If it is, we will do it. If not, it will be restricted to the one user that we already have. So for those of you that have already been aware of this, the option you can do if you don't want to have it be under your email, or the best thing, as sometimes people come and go from projects, we highly recommend that you use a project specific email address and project specific password that anybody who needs access can be given. If you don't want them to have access, you change the password and then don't tell them the new password, they no longer have access. This is not a state system. It's a third-party cloud-based program. I know IT says for all the state people out there, don't share the password. They say it for us too, but this is not a state system. It's only a password for your project information. If you think about it, it's the equivalency of anybody who's capable of walking into your job trailer and eligible to look at documents. It's the same concept. If you give them the password, there's somebody you would let in the job trailer and look through plans and those documents. Otherwise, there's no access to banking information or anything like that. It's just your project information. But you guys can control it through a project-specific email if you don't want to have it under one person. For the question about change orders and construction bulletins, we will discuss those in a second, so I'll come back to that. A good question from Alex under the difference between construction and new construction. Currently in GOVmotus, and we didn't get around to updating this on this recent round of enhancements, but we're probably going to update it moving forward once this one permit per project thing has taken place for a while. Construction would be for your tenant improvements. So like on an existing building, and new construction is you're building a brand new building. The goal eventually would be to just have one thing for construction. That way, it doesn't matter if it's new construction or not, but the original design was one was supposed to be for tenant improvements and one was supposed to be for new construction. If you choose construction in a new building, we're not going to kick it back. We'll proceed forward. It's not going to be a problem. It's just that's what it was. That's what it originally was tried to do intentionally. Okay, you need to identify, after you filled out these fields, one of the other things you have to do as part of filling them out is identify your plan review format. We've talked about this, whether your paper or plan review. It's done through these radio buttons here. we will have to get this note changed. I'll have to change this on the instructions as well. Sorry about that. You do not automatically get redirected anymore. Your submission goes to intake. Intake makes sure that you are indeed supposed to be a standalone permit. And if not, you're supposed to be something that's part of another project under the one permit per project process, where you should just be a review inside the main permit, or the one and only permit now. Intake will make sure that we aren't just pushing forward permits for things that should be a review inside of another permit. So you won't get automatically redirected anymore. But once we accept your permit as a standalone permit, the task in Project Docs will get created automatically. It will send you notification, and then you can come in to your application and make your way over to Project Docs for your upload. So we'll get that. I'll get this corrected in the instructions. I missed that on the images there. So then these two pieces here tell you if you're choosing paper to complete 6 and 7. After you submit your application, wait until you receive notification for your plans that your application has been accepted before you mail your plans to our office per the paper plan review section. If you're choosing electronic plans, you do 6 and 7, and then you will go on to step 8 and beyond for electronic plans. Paper stops at 6 and 7. So step 6 is submitting the application with the submit button that's at the bottom of the application screen. Step 7 is completing the plan submittal checklist. After you hit the submit button, you'll be taken to a new page where there's a large checklist of items that you can check to tell us that are part of your submittal. And there are several items that are required with an asterisk field, and you'll need to make sure that you have considered or include all of those items in your plans. Question about user access when there's no longer a user with your company. So if the applicant is from your company originally and they're not there anymore, and somebody from the same company is saying, hey, Bob doesn't work for our company anymore, and we need the user to be this, we are probably going to respond to you. You'll email the helpline, and we will probably respond to you and say, would you like to change your would you like to create a project-specific email account, then register that with GOVmotus, and we'll change the user access to that so that you don't have to do this every time somebody leaves. If not, tell us who you'd like to have the access with their email address, and we'll swap it out. If you're from a different company, we will not do that just willy-nilly. We are not going to randomly change it because someone says so. So we do our homework. We make sure that whoever's asking for that should be asking for that, or is allowed to ask for that kind of a thing, and we will provide that change. We update the email address field, and then it automatically redirects to that new GOVmotus account with that email address. But you do have to register that email address as a user in GOVmotus. The upload notification will probably take a day, or it probably make, just like the pre-screen. When you submit that, it's going to come in. Our intake staff are going to have to make sure that you're a standalone permit, or that you should be a review inside something, a different permit that already exists. That is not a 5-minute process. That is a little bit of homework time. As we go along and everybody gets used to this, we expect that time to go down. So I would say the typical time you're seeing for pre-screen, except that for the notification to get approval to get the upload task from Project Docs. The question about can access be transferred retroactive? Yes, if the project's already been completed, same process. Email our helpline. We'll figure out if you're somebody that's appropriate to change the access to, and we will do that for you. Eric Shern, if you could type your question in a different format. I'm not following what you're asking about the relevant specific application docs folder. I'm not following.
So that we were saying at least a few days, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For JT, JT, like probably 2 days, just at the beginning, because this will be a process everyone's getting used to. Over time, people are following the new process in place. We expect it'll speed things up. Same kind of thing happened when we first implemented this process. It took more time, and now it goes a lot faster. Question about the from Joseph Sarar. You will not submit if you're doing a preliminary meeting, your application needs to be in draft status. You do not want to submit it. So you just fill it out and hit save and complete later at the bottom. And then that you won't be filling the checklist out until after you submit. For Eric Sharon, I'm just gonna have you email our helpline, and we'll do a time for a phone call. I'm not really following what you're asking, and I just don't want to give you an answer that's not correct. Mike Tran, we already covered it earlier. We do not have an expedited review process. For JT, I don't know what you mean by you waited a month for the last paper over the counter. Over the counters are something you bring in to our office. It's reviewed within 1 hour and returned to you. It's not something you drop off and not get back.
Josh, he might have brought something in and we determined it was too big for an over the counter and we kept it. That could be what it was, and it was checked in at that point.
Correct. Well, and if that happened, that's no longer an over the counter, and that's not a thing. And the thing we're talking about with the 1 to 2 days is not your over the counter review. Your over the counter review is within an hour. If you submit your application or you make a request for a back check or an addendum or things like that before coming in for an OTC, then you'll get the approval to come in for that probably in like 2 days. Okay, for Eric, I get your question now. You check the boxes if you have it in your submittal. If a required item is not in your submittal, it's at least something we wanted you to consider. You'll still have to check the required boxes that have a red asterisk. If they don't have a red asterisk and it doesn't apply, you just don't check the box. Hopefully that answers your question. Right. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this now. So for paper plans, you will hit submit. You will do the checklist and paper plans. At that point, you'll wait to get a notification from our intake staff that we've determined you are a permit and not a review inside of another permit. We'll get you a notification for you to mail your plans to us. Then you can mail your plans to us, and then it'll go through the normal paper process that we already have. We'll put it in the queue. It'll go on the shelf. It'll get reviewed in the order received. For electronic plans, after you submit and complete the checklist, it will get submitted to intake. And this paragraph's where I'm talking about how we don't want to make multiple permits, and so we've stopped automatically directing you to project docs. We're going to check your application, make sure it should be its own standalone permit or not. After you receive an email that we've accepted your application as a standalone permit, and project docs, you get an email from project docs that says you have an upload and submit task. You can log into GOVmotus, go to the control panel on the left side of the screen, click on manage plans, and it will take you into project docs. So on your screen for that would be here. And this is the control panel on the left side of your screen. Once you get into project docs, near the middle of your screen, there is like a blue purplish hyperlink. It says upload and submit task. You'll click that. A new window will pop up, or it will ask you if you want to accept it. You click yes. After that, your upload and submit task window will pop up. Our new process will it'll tell you the directions for those tasks in that window, as well as it will provide this list for you to select the destination for your file folders. So you will click in the folder that you want to upload into, and you'll upload the files that you've named per our instructions into that folder and submit them. I want to be clear, if you are not deferring your sprinklers or alarms, and you're including them with your regular package, they all go in here with your construction set. Fire alarms and fire sprinklers down here are for deferreds only, meaning they will be submitted separately at a different time. That would include even for the partial packages where you're deferring sprinklers and alarms, those will go in these deferral folders. I want to be clear about that. We don't want to see where a TI set of plans has architecturals and MEPs up here and fire alarms and sprinklers submitted here all at the same time. These are deferrals, which means they're coming later. If they're submitted at the same time, they all go into the construction folder. Documents that you're submitting with each of those different types of review packages would go in the same applicable folders. Eventually, all your stuff will end up here in the approved folder. The system will not let you upload here to the approved or reference docs folder. Or reference docs, yes, but approved, no. So if you try, it'll block you. But it just shows in the list of files here. When you click on the folder, it will give you an option to select files to upload or go back to the list of folders. Click the select files to upload. It will bring up this window here. You can either, if you have them open in a separate window, drag your files into this area down here, or you can click Browse for Files, which will open up your computer's file explorer, and then you can select the files that you want and select them, and then they will appear here after you choose them. Once you choose one, it will appear here, and it will have 0 out of the size of the file. Once you see this and it says something like that, you'll click Upload on the Upload Files. That will then, it will load this bar will turn blue. Another window will pop up that says your files have been uploaded. And then once you're done with that, from your main screen, you will check the Upload Task Complete checkbox. Once you're done and everything you've got has been uploaded, before you're done, if you find that you uploaded something that the name was wrong, the wrong file, or you haven't officially submitted to us and you do want to renumber your sheets, before you click Upload Complete and finish your task, email our helpline, tell us that you'd like us to delete your files so that you can start over, and we will do that. You could do that up through pre-screen, but once we take it into the review queue, your file names and everything are locked in. Once you're sure that you've uploaded your stuff, check Upload, and then at the bottom of the task window, you'll click Upload Complete and Submit. That will officially submit your plans to our office, and then it will go to our intake staff for a pre-screen review to make sure that all of the requirements that have been talked about in this entire document have been followed. If they have, they'll accept it into the review queue. It will go onto the digital shelf and wait its turn with the other projects to be reviewed by one of our reviewers. And then before I go on, I'm going to see if there's any other questions. For a question from Julie at DGS, you may have to be the one if you're the one that wants to hold the permanent ownership. The project could choose to use an email address that's project specific for that project and share the access, and then the contractors could do that under that one permit. Okay. After you get a review, if we have written deficiencies on your plans, your response to your plan review comments, and back check submittals. So for papers stuff, we write on your plans directly. We type up a list in GOVmotus. You get emailed that list. I'm going to kind of speed along here because we're running out of time. But you get that, and when you're ready, you'll provide new plans. Before you mail them, you'll go into the system. You'll click on Create Back Check Request. You'll choose which deficient plan review type you're submitting your back check for. And if you have questions, you'll email us. After you complete that request, you'll wait for the review or wait for the permission to mail your plans. After you receive that, acceptance from us, you'll mail your plans with your GOVmotus number, etc. Then we'll take it in, we'll put it in the queue and do your back check review. For electronic plans, you get comments in two forms. There are plan review change marks, which are from a plan reviewer, and if you get that, you'll know it because you have a respond and resubmit task. If your task that you get back from us is a pre-screen corrections task, that means some of the requirements in this document weren't followed, and our intake staff have returned it to you to make those fixes before a review. It is not considered a review. So if you have a pre-screen corrections task, you do not need to increase your version number from, for example, version 1 to version 2. But if you have a respond and resubmit, you do need to increase your version number from version 1 to version 2. For electronics, all correction items will require a response in the project docs system from the applicant. Similar to your narrative response, but it's done in an electronic form through a thing called the change mark reviewer. After you get your task, if you click on it, it will open a task window. In your task window, there will be a button that says change or view change marks or checklist items. You click that, it opens up a viewer. And once you've opened up that viewer, you'll see a list of all the items that have deficiencies or need to be corrected. In the far right-hand column is a column labeled applicant response. That's where you will provide your response to each of those items before you resubmit your documents. To clarify any plan review comments, you can also publish the red line comments into a PDF. You would open up each drawing. I'm just going to scroll down. This is written instructions for here. You would come to your list of files. You're going to look for this little symbol with an exclamation point. This is the first thing you'll do. You'll click on that. It will open this window. You will then click view for which of these markup layers you want to review. Typically, there's only one, but there may be more. And then you will click the view edit button. That will then open the file into a window, and you should see this publish button up, link up here. If you don't see that, email our helpline. We'll get your access changed to allow for that. Once you have that and you click publish, a window pops up, and you can choose all the things you want for your PDF to be turned into, and it will print a PDF and have a little built-in PDF comment label, which will give you what we typed up as a deficiency comment and where that was at, and all that information. To complete your pre-screen corrections or respond and resubmit task and submit back to us, you need to upload your revised documents into the correct subfolders. You need to make sure you're, for respond and resubmit, which means you're resubmitting for a review and you're submitting new versions, you will need to make sure that your file names match the previous file names exactly. Any deviations, they will not version, and we will catch that at the next pre-screen, if you will, and we will kick it back to you and say that your file names didn't match and you need to make a correction. If you need any documents from your previous submission removed because they're not part of your submittal, email our helpline. We will do our best to remove them if they don't have any change mark comments on them, and see if anything by removing them will cause any problems in terms of the review comparisons that are coming up for your resubmission. The last thing you'll do in your task window is verify that the task instructions have been completed by clicking the checkboxes, and you'll click the complete button to finish your task. I won't go over these, but there are some common mistakes that we've noted down here that you guys can read through as well. I do want to get to, before we, I want to go to the change orders real quick and then show you. Before I do that, let's jump over to this. This is what your project screen, your dashboard will look like. It has a list of permits. This is where you apply for a new one. This is where you will get, for inspections and things, requests for signatures. use this one. On the application, I talked about, I'd show you where your master permit box is here. This is where it's at. You'll have to type that number in here, and you'll have to type it out through -PI for permit issued on the end. If you do that ahead of time, once we issue a permit, all the files will be linked. This is an example of where the create new review request will be. And there will also be, when in a rejected status, where the create backcheck request will be as well. It'll be listed in this control panel over here. For inspection reports and signing reports and things like that, within your permit, you'll open up your permit. This is coming for after permit issuance. I'm just going to talk about it now since I'm here. You'll come in here and you'll click sign for anything that needs to be signed. If it's been signed, it'll say view, and it'll open up a PDF of the document you signed. Otherwise, it will generate your inspection report here for you to review. And then at the bottom, you can sign, and there's some signing instructions on our other document that I'll go over right now. So after permit issuance during construction, since that's also what this webinar is about, we want to remind you that we require you to upload all your approved plans to manage documents for paper plans. Again, this step is not necessary for electronic plans because they stay in project docs. Change orders. If you have a change order for paper plans, you'll provide those directly to your DSFM. Your DSFM will then take it from there, and they will do everything that's needed to do that. You still need to give them your GOVmotus application number, and you need to make sure that the original approved plans were uploaded in managed documents before you give them your change order submission. Electronic plans, you need to email the helpline to get your new workflow started. This is a change to how change orders are done in the past. In the past, you went to your field deputy, your deputy set up a change order folder, and then they gave you permission to upload. Now we will be giving you a task, just like a review task, so that you can upload into the drawing folders. The deputy's review of your change orders will be tracked with comments. You will get to get a list of the comments. You will get responses for the comments in the system, and all the data will be kept versus right now where it's kind of handled back and forth through word of mouth and the deputy in the field. So you'll email here, we will get you a new workflow. In the email, include your permit number, the name of the change order, like if it's called ASI number 1 or whatever, and the name of the deputy on your project that will be doing that change order review. If you have multiple deputies, ask them which one they should put the name down because we will assign it directly to them. Once our intake staff have received that and we know who to assign to, we will give you an upload and submit task. Just like you did for your plans, you'll upload your plans for all the requirements. It's the same process as we just went over. It'll be just like an addendum though, where you only need to upload your files that are revised. So only your revised files to the correct subfolders under the drawings and documents need to be submitted. Then it will follow the same processes through a plan review. Once approved, those sheets will get stamped like an addendum does into the approved folder as a new version on top of the previously approved version of that folder. So your change order sheets have to have the same file name as the previous files. If you're inserting new files, you do that through the insertion process that we talked about before. All those things are the same. Scheduling inspections. To schedule an inspection, you're going to reach out to the OSPM supervisor for the county. If you haven't had a DSPM on site yet, you'll reach out to the supervisor via our contact list. Once a deputy's been assigned to your project, you can contact and coordinate that deputy directly. Signing reports, I just went over that. You'll go down to the My Signatures Required section, and there's stuff in here about how to click and where to sign. Some of the deputies may have you sign directly with your finger on their new touchscreen tablets that they've got. You could do that, but if they send it to you, you'll have to go into your dashboard, find the appropriate report, and follow this signing process. These are just screen images of that process step by step. You guys can take a look at them. It's nothing special that I really need to review in detail. Unfortunately, this time when you do go for signing, we cannot save your signature because of the fact that if you do use a project-specific account, different people may need to sign, and we don't want to have you saving a signature that would be used for every person. That would not work. So yes, you will have to sign each report that we send you, and you cannot save your signature for an automatic signature of those documents. If you have any questions, your field deputies can assist you in the process of creating an account and how to sign a report. I'm sure there's some questions in the chat, so I'm going to go back.
Starting with, no, James, right there, James.
For James, are clouds and delta marks still required for all subsequent back check drawing sets? On paper plans, yes. On electronic plans, no, because our system allows us to lay your file on top of the previously submitted plan, and it is super detailed. If you have an additional period at the end of a sentence, it will call it out to us and we can see it. Yolanda, is your question for a plan review or a change order? I'll let you type an update to that. I'll come back to it. You do not need the answer for Don at DGS. You don't need a separate email for each building. You just need an application for each building. You can use the same login for each one of those applications. For Jeremy Willett, if you're getting restamped from DSA, treat it like an addendum. Send us an email, and if it's electronic, and we will get a new task started to do that. If it's on paper, make a new review request through the addendum process for paper, and we will, that's how you'll handle that. The question for Heidi. Heidi, you are currently submitting RFIs and submittal information for Procore. Your change orders that are electronic go through project docs, and if you're on paper, they should be submitted on physical paper to your deputies in the field. If that is not being followed, please email our helpline with a permit number so we can take a look into what is going on with that. To quickly answer Nanette's question, Procore is a different web-based software we use for all of our construction inspections. Your field deputy will be able to help you reach that once you get through that. It's not part of the plan review process or anything that we're really going over here today. It's something that your field deputy will really walk you guys through and do a little bit of training with. John, I don't understand your different staff consultants on the applications. If you're asking about multiple people having access, you'd have to do that by using a project-specific email address with a project-specific password to that email address and GOVmotus account, and share that with them. Those are all the things I have to go over today. Does anybody else have any questions about stuff we went over? Just checking to see if the documents have been uploaded yet, and it doesn't look like they've been uploaded yet. All right, I know it's a new process. It's a lot to talk about as well. Thanks for sticking through it. I didn't originally intend to have some breaks in there, but we were not staying ahead of the curve I had planned for, so I just powered through. Email the helpline with questions. We're here to help. We will gladly talk you through it. Most of the processes are the same. We're just trying to consolidate everything into one permit. So you guys don't have to manage 27 permits on a big project. We don't have to run reports on 27 permits on a big project. It's going to kind of clean some of that stuff up. And then we do have some stuff in the works for some future changes to try to do even more quality of life stuff. And when we do, we'll do another one of these and we'll go over all that. All right. Everybody have a good day. Thanks for attending.
Thank you.
This is being recorded. We will put it through some editing software and shrink it down from 3 hours and 16 minutes that it's currently at down to a much more manageable size. It'll get uploaded to the website, and you guys will be able to have that, and we'll take care of that. We'll get that up there as soon as we can, along with the other documents. by the people who have access and permission to do that. Okay? All right. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.